All right, we are back to review another program. This is Chelsey, and I've got Chris here from Show Up Fitness, and we are looking at a new program today that I believe one of the interns that went through Show Up Fitness, their friend did, or they did, or something, and they sent it over to us so that we can review it and kind of fill you guys in on what we think about it. Chris, what were your first thoughts when you saw the program?
Just wanted to revisit last week, and we will be posting these on YouTube. Did you throw yours out there?
Yeah, mine's on YouTube.
Okay, mine, I'm slacking, so I got a bucket full of excuses that no one wants to hear about, so I'll get that one out there. But to revisit last week, we had a program that was beautifully terrible, and the main emphasis, the takeaway was we want to start with multi-jointed exercises first, look at the rest, how many reps, and what's the variety of the exercises. So we're going to do this as a way to educate people on programs that you've got in the past. And in my experience, I've been a trainer for over 20 years, degree in kinesiology, lots of experience with internships, but also a great board of education. In my opinion, I would say a low end, 96% of trainers don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And so when you get a program from someone, it's literally, I love Chelsey's analogy last week. It's just a bucket of exercises. So a bucket with a bunch of exercise in it, they're just pulling stuff out. So there's no rhyme or reason to a lot of this stuff. I try to make the best out of it that we can, but it's literally no rhyme or reason. And so as we go week to week to week, we want to come together with a nice little presentation. So when you do buy a program, there's some red flags that you can look out for. So if someone leave their program with all their credentials, that's a red flag I would start out with. Like if someone says, I'm a NASM certified trainer and I have 15 other certs, it's like they're insecure and they're trying to make up for that in the quote unquote cluster of a market, the saturation, by putting those credentials up there. So if you look at some of the top trainers in the world, go to Ben Bruno out of LA. What does his name say in the bio? It says trainer. Great trainers, they don't need to get overzealous on how many certs they have. So that's a red flag that I would put out there. What's a red flag that might come to you, Chelsey?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Man, I mean, aside from programming, like when you're just looking at someone's page, I think you can kind of just tell based on the exercises they're posting. But that would maybe be hard for someone in the general population to kind of see.
Yeah.
So hopefully courses like this and videos like this can start to tell people, you know, what red flags are and what they look like and how to kind of start seeing them like we do.
And that could be something that we can start adding, like red flags that you want to look for. So each week we can add a couple. So, and I think there should be more accountability on the trainer's behalf, where you should reach out to that individual and say, can you send me an example of what one of those workouts would be like? And if they get pushing, you're going to buy my whole program, then that's a red flag right there. If you were to reach out to me and say, hey, Chris, I'm thinking about doing your programming that we have, which we do have monthly programs. Can you send me on a day? I'd say, absolutely. What do you want to do tomorrow? Legs? Great. What'd you do last time? What's your PR in this? And you have any limitations? Yeah, I would ask questions. I would send them a program. I would be professional. I'll get back to them quickly. If that individual is too big where they don't even have a team to get back at you, that should be a red flag. So when we start off with this program, we're going to do a warm up, hips and knees extremely well. And then we get into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exercises. And so take us through this, Chelsey. So we're going to start with dumbbell straight leg deadlifts.
And there's calf raises down
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got, oh man. Well, so I want to talk about the very, very first thing I noticed with this program. It's funny because you look at a program like this right away and there's no pictures or anything and it's pretty basic. And so you have to really start kind of just reading it to go through it. And it felt like every sentence I was reading, I was like, I just don't understand what's happening. So the first thing I look at is the exercises and the order of those exercises. Same thing that we were talking about last week. So that is an important thing. The exercises shouldn't just be ordered in any which way. You want to try to hit those multi-joint exercises first. So we're looking at a dumbbell straight leg deadlift, which is fine. But to follow it up with a barbell back squat, I just feel like you're going to be able to go heavier on the barbell back squat. And in that case, that should be first. And he's not saying that he wants you to go any lighter, any heavier on the barbell back squat. It looks like he wants you to do the same exact thing for both. So just that alone, I would say barbell back squats would need to go first. And then the rest of it looks like it's unilateral, except for the calf raises at the bottom. And then the second thing that I saw is just the 2 to 3 warm-up sets of 10 to 15 reps. I'm just thinking, like, how much time is this going to take somebody? And also, how fatigued are they going to be by the time they finally get into their 5x5, which when I'm looking at someone doing 5 reps, and this is another thing that we talked about in the last program, the reps do matter. And so the reps aren't there just as a random number. They do mean something. And so when you're looking at a smart program and someone's telling you to do 5 sets of 5 reps, so a total of 25, you're looking at that exercise and you know that that's an exercise that you're about to hit is like really, really heavy weight. So to do 2 to 3 warm-up sets for 10 to 15 reps and then to jump into 5x5 with only 30 seconds of rest, like the whole thing is just super confusing to me.
It's not even confusing. It's just, it's not applicable. So if we were to try to put this into some type of analogy that will work for those that are new to the fitness world. So let's pretend like we have a sprinter who's trying to perform maximally. And when you see 1 to 5 reps, that means maximal effort. It means you literally, Chelsey and I are going to sprint, and the winner lives, the loser dies. We're not going to just be going, yeah, this is fun, high five, this is HIIT training. No, it's everything you have. And so when you do that max exertion, you need to follow that with a time where you rest and recover, because you wouldn't be able to go in that analogy where I sprint as fast as I can, Chelsey does, I lose, I'm dead, she wins. If she rests 30 seconds and has to compete against someone else, she's absolutely going to lose that next race because she's so exhausted. And so when you do 5x5, that's a total volume of 25. But how I interpret this is it's essentially a cluster of really, really lightweight, and you're just doing it for 5 reps and you're resting. It's like their little system. And this is geared towards women who want to grow their glutes. And this was a student who bought the program, want to lose fat and grow their glutes. And I'll let you argue with me if you want to do 2 or 3 warm-up sets for the first one. Okay, if you're really strong, sure. But then each one after that, like, that's just stupid. Like doing 2 or 3 more warm-ups of 20 reps on back squats, like, absolutely idiotic. That person doesn't know how to train. They're a fucking idiot. And you get down here and walking lunges and the same thing. And now we're doing 10 by 10. So these programs, like, I don't know how more people don't get hurt. As we talked about last week, if you have 100,000 followers, and let's just say 100 of them buy your program, of those 100, statistically speaking, 5 or 10 are just going to be mentally tough. They're not going to have that much stress. They have an easy life and they're able to do it. So they're going to get results. So then you highlight them and say, oh my God, look at my programming. This is how you're going to get amazing results. You know, those individuals who you're highlighting are they're outliers. And so it's not fair to have the average person even try this, because we're looking at 5 sets. That's 8 total sets right there. 16 sets, 26, 29. Like, this is absolutely fucking stupid.
So
Like,
how much just is it for just this one day?
So you have, again, we have 8 sets here because you do 3 warm-ups and then you do 5x5. So that's 8 sets. And you do 8 sets again, that's 16. And then we're at 19, and you're doing 10 by 10. Like, that's you get, like, if I were to go outside right now and do 100 lunges with load, my legs are gonna be shot tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, you're gonna go do another 100 lunges. And then let's end off on some fucking extensions and calf raises. So it's like, you literally cannot make, when people ask me, if I say this and people like laugh, it's like, here's a plate of dog shit. Taste it and try to tell me the flavors that you're getting from it. And you're like, what do you mean? It's just dog shit. I'm using that reference because a student saw Jackass. I want to go see it, and there were some funny scenes in there, but it's literally like that. programs today are so pathetic, and it's the consumer who I feel the most for, because they're ultimately the ones that do it. They get hurt, they get frustrated, and then they try another idiotic program. Whether if it's another workout program like this, is if I were to give this on a science, a difficulty level 0 to 10, this is a 10. On a scientific scale of 0 to 10, this is a 0. There's not an ounce of any type of application behind this.
Mhm.
And so it's frustrating that there's people out there that think that their programs are legit, and they're absolutely terrible. So when you look at the second day, if you can, so this would be the third day. Let's go look at the back and chest. So we took out one of the upper ones. So girls, optional to do this. And I always think it's funny when they put like optional for girls. It's chest. It's the same exact template. So there's really not much that we should even really go over. It's like the same exact template. Straight, so slight incline dumbbell press, which that's just basically back. I mean, that's a bench flat. So, and then you go into cable pullovers, and then bent over rows. So we have 1 chest, 2 back, 3 back. Then we're going to do lying on the floor chest press. When you see a program like this is also something to kind of note on. I can tell you exactly the guy who's writing it, that he's not very strong on bench press, and he probably has shoulder problems because of how he designs it. Because the fact that he says slight incline, when you go to an incline like that, that means that his shoulders are probably going to be a little jacked up because he doesn't know how to lift. And so it irritated his shoulder. And a lot of trainers take this mentality like, I hurt myself on bench press, therefore bench press is bad for everyone. No, the dude doesn't know how to fucking lift. And so then he comes in here and do a floor press. When you see a floor press takes out transverse. So it's easier. You can lift heavier. So it's an ego lift unless you have an injury. So that's a flag to me that I guarantee this dude's jacked. He doesn't have any mobility, and he has no idea how to lift.
So is it repeated right there? He says laying on the floor, chest press, 5 by 5, and then you do it again for 10 by 10. Interesting. Okay. Okay. So I wanted to try to get people a little bit more understanding of why some of this stuff is so ridiculous. So basically something that I learned when I went through the Show Up Fitness internship is that the amount of exercises essentially that you do per muscle group per day actually does matter. There's like a nice little sweet spot, especially for beginners or just like general population, where you want to be to start seeing results and also not to get injured. And that's something that I wasn't aware of. And I think about that when I train somebody and we do, like our basic workout, hitting the volume of like 9 to 12 sets usually. And then they'll ask me like, is it okay if I come in tomorrow? Like, I know we're scheduled to come in tomorrow. Is that can be fine? Like, I don't think we're supposed to work out 2 days in a row. And it's like, it's absolutely fine. And it really just depends on how many, how much you're training a certain muscle group that day. So for someone like overall volume for a week, Chris, what should it be for like the general population?
Most trainer responses are frustrating for general population because it depends. You got to look at the individual, their age, their condition state. For Chelsey, she may be able to handle 30 to 40 sets of glutes in a week, whereas my mom, she may be able to do 10. And so if you're coming out of an injury, the volume shouldn't be that high. So we're talking about now is VFI, volume, frequency, intensity. Those are the main variables for hypertrophy that we like to take a look at. There's some good posts out there and evidence from Dr. Contreras, and I like his little U-shaped curve of 10 to 40. People look at that like, oh my God, that's so many or not enough. It depends. Where are you at? If you're an individual, if you were doing this program and you weren't seeing results with size, it means the intensity wasn't there. So you weren't lifting heavy enough. You see a lot of people who are on steroids and taking HGH and other supplements that they don't go that heavy, and they just do a lot of junk volume because of the steroids that they're taking. Women as well. I've worked with a lot of women who are in phenomenal shape, but they're taking steroids. And so it's so frustrating because you're giving a program, I call it the Mario Star. You can do whatever the fuck you want to, it's going to work. You can't die. And so this program is going to work for someone who's on steroids, but it's not going to work for general population. So if you imagine I'm on steroids and I do this and I get jacked, I think that this program is what got me jacked, not the roids. Then I give this to my friends and their connective tissue starts getting jacked up. So when she said getting injured, it's like, what's a very common injury you hear with people who start running? Shin splints, knee pain. It's because the repetition. It's a lot of stress. It's like wear on your tires. It starts wearing on your system because we're not strengthening the tissue. It's just repetition. So we need to do a full spectrum of concentric and eccentric. So concentric means shortening of the muscle. So when I pull a weight, that's concentric. And when I lengthen it, when it's easier, that's eccentric. That's stressing the tissue so then it can adapt and then it gets stronger. And then you're able to do it more and more. It's on the cover of my book, wherever my book is, but it's the principle of, here it is, Milo of Croton. So this is the idea of Milo, where I pick up a little calf and I bring it up to the hill and then I bring it back. And if I do that day after day after day, the calf gets bigger, I get bigger. So that's what we're talking about with stress and too much volume.
Mm-hmm. So like, for example, on this back and chest day right here, as far as chest, for example, the overall volume just in this one day for just chest would be, let's see.
You'd have, I wouldn't count these first two. I would call this 5, but this is tricky because you would need the individual to give you their explanation. These terms are, it's like saying, don't cuss. Okay, you fuck. What? What do you mean? So when it says go heavier, 5 by 5, but 30 seconds rest.
Yeah, you can't.
No, if I put a weight on there and I get 5 reps and I rack that, I'm going to need at least 3 or 4 minutes, probably closer to 5 minutes to get 5 reps again. Yeah. My central nervous system shot, but the work that I just did is very taxing. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of hard to determine, but let's just say it's 5. So 5 there, and he's doing 5 more, that'd be 10. Then he's doing 10 by 10. So that's 20. And now you're at 3 sets of failure, 23, 26 total sets for your chest. Yeah. That is the definition of how you get rhabdomyolysis, and you can die from it.
Yeah. So that's what I was trying to point out, is that you have a doctor basically saying, like Dr. Contreras saying, like 10 to 40 throughout the week is like maybe a range that a lot of people could fall in, depending on, like you were saying, if they're coming out of injury or if they've been training for a long time, or if they're a beginner. That's usually a great range for people to land in. And people will see that and think 10's not enough, 40 is way too much. So to see this, and that's for an entire week, and you see this just for chest, you have like 26 sets in just one day.
Yeah.
To be able to look at a program as someone that is new to training and kind of understand how to add that up and see that is crucial, because I mean, it's just not how you should be training. It's crazy.
So you could do, we can add in another little tenet for our commandments of training. Each day, the max amount of sets, max should be 15. And if someone's doing more than 15 total sets for a workout for one muscle, that's not optimal. And I'll even go as far as saying that's erroneous. Like, you should just throw a red flag at that and not do it. So again, this would be 5. So let's look at his back day. He has 10 by 10, and then he has 4 sets of 10. So it's 14. Then he's doing 10 more. It's 24 sets. Now, what I would prefer to see is, okay, we're going to do incline dumbbell. It's 4 by 5. So that's heavyweight. And then I do a bench press for 4 by 10. And then I do chest flies for 3 by 15. That total volume would be 11. That would be great. If you want to then end off on AMRAP 3 sets of failure on a push-up, that would give you to 14. Still fine. Yeah. So I would be okay with, even if you did 16, it's not the end of the world. It's like you have this little gray area, but it's like 20 plus. No, my conclusion would be steroids, or you're absolutely insane. Like, you're a psychopath. Those are your 2 options there. So,
do you think anyone would try to argue that one point, though, by saying, like, if I can only work out 1 day a week, then that is okay?
No. Oh, sure. They can try to make that argument, but it still wouldn't suffice. So if you look at Arnold back in the day in his programs, like the Encyclopedia of Lifting, bodybuilding, he would do, I don't have his program in front of me, but he would hit like 20 sets, and he was taking an astronomical amount of steroids, and that was fine for him. But there's, again, when you have exogenously put stuff into your body via a needle, the rules don't really apply to you as much. And so let me retract what I said earlier. Then if you're on steroids, then maybe that would work for you. But if you're on steroids, you shouldn't be giving programs to people who are not on steroids. So, this program is meant for a general population individual. I've worked with people on steroids before, and I tell them straight up, I said, because I can look at blood samples and I can tell you what's legit and like okay, if you're off some charts on the cholesterol and stuff. And then I can look at a program and say, are you on steroids? Because if you're taking something, HGH can help you with recovery, steroids, then I can program a little differently for you. Your recovery is going to be a lot better. But this would not be appropriate for a general population person.
I got the glute day. And so this program was designed for women, you said, or it's just designed?
This was a multi-sex one, so you could for males or females.
Okay.
And which is interesting because a lot of guys, again, tells you the guy's background. Guys don't have glute days. And that's not saying that we should or shouldn't, but it's like guys will have leg days. And they'll do more of a hinge pattern. And so it's like when people say, what are you gonna hit today? I'm gonna do more a squat pattern, or I'm gonna do more of a hinge pattern. If I want to emphasize more of my glutes, that's fine, but I wouldn't put here's your glute day. So interesting how they did that.
Yeah. And then is this a 5-day a week program?
4-day.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our glute day. The warm up cracks me up. Okay, so then we're gonna do barbell hip thrust, 4 sets of 8 to 10 reps heavy. So it starts out fine. Like that could be fine. Mm-hmm. And then after 4 sets, he wants us to do a 10 by 10 with lighter weight, 10 reps with a 10-second break, repeated 10 times.
So again, how you read that though, that's 4 sets and then you do 100 reps. So you do 40 reps and then, okay, here's a little back end of the hip thrust. Here's 100 reps to go.
Right. Yeah. And that's your first exercise.
Yep. I will do on a hip thrust. Like we've done this at the gym in West Hollywood where Chelsey has like 4 plates on there, which is 405. And this is her last set. And the last thing she's doing today, I'll take off a plate. She'll do 315 AMRAP, take off a plate, 225 AMRAP, take off a plate. And like, she'll do maybe 30 reps. And that's like the finisher for the day, not the first thing.
That's where you end, because you want to be able to save your energy and be able to lift the biggest amount of weight to make, give the most force production throughout the workout. So like we were saying last week, it doesn't make sense to fatigue yourself out and fatigue your muscles out before going into like your bigger lifts. So we don't mind that he's having us or like putting that in there, but it would make the most sense to put it at the very end of the workout, because now he wants us to do all of these hip thrusts and then go into more like heavy strength training. He wants us to go into plate on side of leg hip abductions after that. Really heavy using a dumbbell if a 45-pound plate is too light. I don't know any girls that are holding a 45-pound plate on the side of their hip and lifting it up 10 times and complaining that it's too light and then therefore grabbing a 50-pound dumbbell, but okay. That doesn't really make any sense. And then we have the barbell straight leg deadlift. So again, kind of just going in from these like bigger compound multi-joint lifts into like the side isometric ones, which could be okay. I feel like if you were maybe if you weren't going to go back into doing more glute work, and it's all glute work. So the whole thing is basically just glutes and hamstrings. You hit a little quad, obviously, with the step ups, but it's really focused on glutes and hamstrings a little bit.
So if we want to continue to try to help make it a little better, but trying to make a masterpiece out of shit. But if you were to do this program, You do 4 sets of hip thrusts in the beginning. That's fine. And I would implement like a progressive. So the first set, 135, rest 2 or 3 minutes. If you want to do, get on your phone, that's fine. If you want to, read a book or do some ab work, that's fine. Add some weight, do it again. Add some weight, do it again. So maybe you do 12 and then 10 and then 8, then 6. So you do 4 sets of that. Great. Now we'd go into your deadlift and do 3 sets of, 12, 10, 8. Awesome. And then go to your step ups and do 2 sets of maybe 10 per side. And then you can end off on the hip abductions and do some kickbacks as like a superset. That'd be okay for 2 or 3 sets. So we have 4 here. We have 3 here at 7, 2 here, we're at 9. And then you end off on 3 at the end. So that's 12. And then if you want to do like 2 sets or even 3 sets of a hip thrust at the end.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
The barbell hip thrust.
Yeah. So the things that we want you to take away from this call today, looking at volume, frequency, intensity, 9 to 15 total sets per muscle per workout. The week can be 10 to 40, and we'll address that more depending on there's a lot of different factors, your age, where you are in your program. Try to hit each pattern twice a week. So I'd much rather you take this individual who just did fucking 50 sets. So let's just say it was upper end of doing 16. Studies have shown it would be better to do Monday and Thursday, both days doing 8 sets. So just doing squats 4x10 and then hip thrust 4x15 and then repeating. Doing a total of 8 sets on those days. It's superior to do that than 1 day of 16. And let me show you why, because when we look at muscle protein synthesis, so this is when volume is equated. So you have person 1 who hits 16 sets. That's a lot of sets, by the way. So this is Monday. So your muscle protein synthesis is going to be elevated and then it's going to drop. So this is going to be probably like Wednesday or Thursday. So you're not getting jack shit on these days. Whereas the other option, you do 8 sets here on Monday. You have your muscle protein synthesis comes down. And then on Thursday, you hit another 8. So then it comes back up and it comes back down. So then your body's constantly rebuilding. And that's where you've maybe heard of some terms like EPOC, excess post-oxygen consumption. That's the benefit of lifting weights because you're building your body, making a better machine. And so people like Orange Theory will misconstrue that statement and they'll have you do things that are high intense, like running and then doing weights. So when you see the word heavy to a smart person like Chelsey, she associates it with, okay, 1 to 3 reps. That's really, really challenging. Dumb people like we just looked at, they say heavy and then they have you rest 30 seconds and do it again. Well, that's not heavy. Yeah. You may have someone like I could take someone who's never worked out before and they lift a weight 15 times and go, oh my God, that was heavy. Yeah, it was because you're not used to it or you're used to picking up your phone or fries. So what you just did is you did something you're not used to. But heavy would be 3 or 4 reps where you couldn't do it anymore. Like I just did a post on my story and I was showing off curling some 70s. I did it 1 time. That's fucking heavy. Where to someone else like Ronnie Coleman, who's really jacked 10 times my size, that's light because he can do that 15 times. So you need to look at the individual and what they're capable of. So look at the total volume, try to hit those muscles twice per week. You can use soreness as a gauge. Now, our society will misconstrue soreness and they should try to be sore every workout. No, if you've been training for 3 or 4 months and you haven't been sore at all, that means that the volume is probably too low. You're not training frequently enough and the intensity isn't high. So increase your volume a little bit and lift a little heavier weights. I did some back stuff today. And if my back isn't sore a little bit tomorrow or the next day, that means that the next time I can increase my volume a little bit. I'm not seeking soreness. Like I got to be sore every single time. No, if I'm not sore, it doesn't mean that my workout was worthless. It just means that if I've been training for a while and like, Chelsey, you train regularly. If your glutes haven't gotten sore, like in your last 2 or 3 months, that means that we need to up it a little bit probably.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, those are all really good things to pay attention to. So yeah, what a wild program that was.
So as we post more of these on YouTube and social media, we would love for more. And I think as we continue to make these better, maybe next week we can start off by showing you a post from a scientist looking at some of the more critical aspects, like someone like Dr. Schoenfeld looking at the mechanisms of hypertrophy, or Menno Hesselm. I screwed up his last name, but he has a lot of great stuff looking at total volume. And in science, it's like, we don't want to say it has to be 9 to 15. What they've done is, okay, past 15 is just not effective. And so less than 9, it may not be effective, but don't, and I've had talks with Dr. Schoenfeld, we need to also use our minds as trainers, is by saying that you could, not stereotype, but you could discourage people from working out. So for example, I'm at home, I have 10 minutes. Oh shit, I can't get 9 sets in. I'm not going to work out. No, something's better than nothing. And so you got to always keep that in mind. And you want to encourage people to be healthy and move more. And if you do 1 set of push-ups, that's better than nothing.
Totally. Yeah. And then on the opposite end of that, doing too much, it's like, I feel like I hear a bunch of people say that they go and they do CrossFit and they've been doing CrossFit like for a while, but they're still not really seeing the results that they're looking for. And you start to wonder like, well, maybe you're just doing too much. You're crushing your body way too much. And it doesn't even have the time to like adapt to what you've been putting it through, you know? So yeah, you can kind of see the extremes from all sorts of different people, from not having enough time to do anything, and then people that are doing way too much. And it's like trying to find that sweet spot and trying to understand that like sweating a ton and getting super sore and walking out of a class feeling like you were just shot isn't necessarily the ideal way to get your results that you're looking for. So yeah, I think for a lot of those people that do feel like they have been training for a long time and they're not seeing the changes in their body or the figure that they want yet, I think kind of coming back to these videos and getting a better idea of correct programming and seeing what works and what doesn't and why will help you guys start to, you know, finally get what you're looking for.
And in a few more weeks, we should have our 10 commandments out there, where each time we're making these a little better. So I'm going to go with pink next week. Is that okay?
Pink?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh,
for outfits, we got to match. So
oh yeah.
I'm gonna wear.
Okay,
I'll wear my pink tutu, and it'll be good.
Okay. Yes.
All righty. So comment, like, share, and check Chelsey out on her Instagram. What's your Instagram?
You guys can find me at Chelsey Rose Health.
Get us Show Up Fitness and Show Up Fitness Internship. Have a great day.